All right, everyone. Welcome, everyone. We're going to be having a conversation on a very important topic. Let me bring it up. It's going to be on this topic about why I'm the hero that the swarm must conceal. It's not to be egotistical, but to really share something very, very fundamental about a very powerful journey called the hero's journey and how the swarm wants to hide real heroes. So let me bring in my, we have a important interview here. Let me bring in the interviewer here who's going to be doing this with. I think I can do this here. Here we go. 1 second. Here we go.
Because you have
all right, Layla, I'm ready.
Hey.
Okay, good.
Great.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for your patience. I sorry about all the technical issues.
All right. So where do we begin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I wanted to talk, and I just watched your last stream that you had, and I wanted to talk about just media manipulation. And I think that you are uniquely qualified to really critically discuss these influencers, their blind alleys that they send us on, these ridiculous talking points they hyperfixate on, and just the total lack of tangible solutions. Because if anyone's followed you, or if they're aware of your work, and I've been following you for a while, you actually are one of the few legitimate voices out there, I believe, that actually give practical solutions, not just the pie in the sky sort of, oh, we're gonna in the CIA. you know those things are not really, as the individual person, because I like to talk about propaganda, how to protect yourself, how to become aware, so that you don't suffer from the negative, the negative influences of it, and just having a voice, a legitimate voice, especially like yourself, that's giving those solutions. It's such a contrast to the actual influencers that we see, the super popular ones, that don't really, there's nothing really past, oh, look at this, isn't this corruption, isn't this evil, let's blame the chai coms, let's just start throwing blame and hyperfixate on trannies.
Yeah. So you want me to comment on that, Layla? Yeah. So first of all, let me just say that, what's gone on is that I'm going to sort of go to the depth of this. In the psyche, I believe, of most humans, when I was a child growing up, my grandmother would tell me these amazing stories of epic stories. We didn't have TV or anything. So I was growing up in a small village in India. As a child, I'd lie on her lap and she'd tell me these heroic stories of great heroes, typically people fighting evil, So there's something in the heart of every human being, which is the hero's journey. Now, there's a guy called Joseph Campbell, and there's a series of work that he did where he unraveled across all different religions and cultures the story of the hero. And what he found out was in every culture, if you looked at any religious framework, there was always these same archetypes. And the hero's journey typically goes like this. From a film perspective, people use this in Hollywood a lot, right? It's sort of the formula. And it goes like this. You have the individual tended to be the hero, who's intended to be the hero. He's pursuing something, and then a set of incidents occur which compel him to take this journey. He doesn't want to do the journey because he has other stuff he thinks is important. Eventually, a sage or a mentor steps in, and they convince him why he must go on this journey. And in that journey, the hero goes through initially training, and then he goes through that training is then used to go through some process of actual fighting, evil. And in the first phase of that fight, the hero fails and he goes into a deep, deep, deep depression, right? Or some deep reflection. And then he emerges out of that with a heroic fight, wins, and, typically learns some great lesson in life. And that's called the resurrection, which he brings to humanity. So this is a very powerful journey. And there are real heroes, real underdogs. And what's fascinating for me, and this is, it's interesting to have to speak about oneself in the truth you have lived because of the utter concealment that these guys do and how they raise fake heroes. So they understand this journey. And what they are actively doing is creating fake underdogs, fake heroes. And this is at the heart of this manipulation. It's a very deep thing that I've had to reflect on to connect the dots here. They've taken the hero's journey, they understand it from a behavioral standpoint, and they literally create fake heroes. And therefore, they must conceal real underdogs like myself.
Exactly.
They have to do that because the journey that I've gone through, the real one from below up, will win the day. And they cannot have that. So they create fucking douchebags like this guy, Vivek the Snake. I saw you doing the analysis with Fucker Carlson, another douchebag. Okay?
Yes.
They create these rich brown, blue, brown, white boys out of nowhere, typically men, if you notice, okay? Out of nowhere, fake men, and they promote these mythic journeys of these guys are the underdogs. Trump is the most relevant one, so he's, oh my God, poor Trump, this conviction. Well, he makes $250 million from so-called convictions. He shows that crime does pay. And you can continue, and you can continue this. So the establishment at the heart of this entire thing, what I've reflected on is they are actually creating fake underdogs, fake heroes. Elon Musk, another total doofus. Everything he's ever touched has gone bankrupt. So they created him. They create these fake heroes. Where Elon Musk begins and where government ends, nobody knows. And you're looking at someone who's actually lived the real journey. And it took me a lot of time to reflect on this and come to this conclusion, why it's important. And it's been a journey for me to be able to articulate this. It takes a lot for one to go through this journey and actually fight for oneself. And to me, I'll give you the journey that I went through, because when you grow up, in my view, and you mature, you actually connect your personal suffering, your personal journey with the collective suffering. And you get to touch your depths of your soul, and you can speak it with authority. So it is not coming from a standpoint of some type of narcissism. It's coming from a standpoint of absolute truth. And that journey has taken me a long time. And it occurred, the transition occurred actually in 2012.
Oh, wow.
Right. So meaning where I had to really own this. Let me explain why I say that. You may know, if you've studied my work, that I grew up in India, which had a caste system. Now,
Yes.
the caste system is not well understood by most Americans. And the Indians who do arrive here, like Vivek the Snake, who's a Brahmin brown-nosed bullshitter, and he knows what he's doing. He's a real fucker. Excuse my language,
a
but
chat GPT bot.
Chat GPT that they picked out
it.
of somewhere to create a fake version of me. Okay.
Exactly.
Then they have Booby Kennedy, who literally sends his people to our open houses and literally word for word steals my stuff and then redoes a video on it. Now, why are they doing this? Because they know that I have lived a very sincere, authentic life, and we are building a bottoms-up movement. And this is very dangerous. They cannot have one of us. The last person I would say was that I have a lot of great respect for was Malcolm X. Malcolm, towards the end of his life, was figuring this out. And he had not figured out the full framework, but he had, his analogy of the house slave and the field slave pretty much said it all. So Malcolm figured this out, right? And that's why he needed to be executed, and they needed to promote Martin Luther King, who was someone who was anointed by the elites. I mean, he was a Southern black bourgeois minister who was chosen by the Kennedys, who was chosen to, quote unquote, run the civil rights movement because he could be controlled because of all the dirty laundry he had in his background. Okay. The lasciviousness, I mean, one just needs to go look at it. And that's why he was a wonderful target for the elites to use. Malcolm could not be compromised in any way. Neither can I. So what's happened is my journey was growing up in that small village in India and in Bombay, India, where I experienced a caste system. And whatever occurred in my life is, I witnessed my great grandfather in the fields working his butt off. I witnessed my grandmother, and I could never get away from their suffering and how hard they work and how great and loving people that they were. And their words matched their deeds. They were uncompromising people. And so I internalized that. I don't know how many other kids would have. For whatever reason, they were burned into my soul. These people's lives who I saw were absolutely uncompromising. Money was not what moved them, but a true connection to what you want to call, if you want to call it God, a true connection to God consciousness. They were poor village farmers, and I was compelled by that. And I made this promise as a 12-year-old kid when I went back to India after I saw being in the United States for 5 years, that I must do something, because I saw the inequities of the world in many ways, many dimensions. I saw the inequity of the world from a income standpoint. I could see the subjugation of imperialism. As a kid, I started reading every book I could get on great revolutionaries. And then I saw this subjugation of my grandmother, who had no degrees, with tattoos all over her arms, but was a village healer. She did more for villagers by using an ancient system of medicine, an indigenous system of medicine, to heal people. So these things really compelled in me this really, really deep desire for truth and to figure this shit out. And that was the journey, and it wasn't the hero's journey yet until I came to the United States. I worked my butt off. I wasn't a nerd. I was a pretty good athlete. So typically, nerds, squeak, and they wear these glasses and they're supposed to look all fucked up. But I actually played ball. No, sorry, they've created these stereotypes, you say? I created email as a 14-year-old kid before I came to MIT, in a small medical college in an all African-American community in Newark, New Jersey, where nothing's supposed to come out of. And my friends were poor Black custodial workers, the secretaries, who I had great respect for. And in that environment is where I created email with not any sense of grandeur. I was just so appreciative that I could work with these computers with people 30 to 40 years older, and was given this opportunity to solve a civilian problem of how secretaries could move from a typewriter to the keyboard, you see? But my interests were always medicine. I just happened to bumble into that. And then all of this before I came to MIT, you see? And when I came to MIT, I was very interested in systems of power. How could you actually change the world at a fundamental level? A very sincere interest. So I went in and out of MIT, did a bunch of degrees, always in engineering, system science, and electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and design, and then in biological engineering. And then it was not until 2007 and 8 when I returned to India to study Indian medicine from a Western standpoint. That's when I cracked the code. I found out that all these ancient systems of Indian medicine were not really a medical system. They were directly related to engineering science. And I had really discovered this Rosetta Stone of knowledge, a profound, deep Rosetta Stone, which basically said these ancient Indian yogis were not doing some woo-woo medicine, saying namaste, doing poses and all this, what all the new age people have denigrated into. They had actually seen the world as a complex system. Now, they had a language, which most of these gurus who wear their saffron gear and think they're better had also denigrated. No different than all the woo-woo types in the United States. But I've discovered that these ancient systems of medicine were directly related to engineering system science. So when I came back from, by the way, before I left India, I was recruited by the Indian government to run the largest innovation center. I was married at that time. And I could have sat in India among the elites, but I found all this corruption in that Indian innovation system of the government. I exposed it, and under death threats, I had to leave India. Okay. So, and there's many, many points in my life where I could have been co-opted, right? Given very, very high level positions at many different levels. So when I came back, it was 2010, right? I went to India on a 3-year Fulbright, came back. And when I came back is when my dear mom was dying. And in a suitcase, my mother had saved all the artifacts of my inventing email as a 14-year-old kid, by the way, which I never promoted. Every other kid would have promoted, their parents would have said, I was just, I was interested in medicine. So
Mm.
the editor of Time magazine, who was the only editor to really go through that, and he wrote an article called "The Man Who Invented Email." Then 3 months later, it went into the Smithsonian, which should have been an opportunity to celebrate, quote unquote, the American dream. But what ended up happening was a young African-American Washington Post reporter wrote an article saying, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai honored as the inventor of email by the Smithsonian. That instant was February 2012. It was a firestorm. All these liberal white elites who talk about diversity were so upset that this was like a new skull was found, because they had already
Oh my
deemed the
gosh.
invention of email to be from the military
Okay.
industrial complex. That this white dude with a beard with glasses was a nerd who had done essentially 15 minutes of programming to add text to the bottom of the
Mm.
file. They had conflated that to be email. So when my stuff went in the Smithsonian, it reveals a much bigger story about the real hero, this hardworking kid in Newark, New Jersey, in a small medical college, who wrote 50,000 lines of software code with an 8K of memory to convert every feature, inbox, outbox folders, into the electronic version, named it email, a term he came up with, and got the first US copyright at a time when that was the only way to protect software inventions. There's no controversy. So when that went in, what was fascinating was I was teaching a class at MIT. I have my PhD. I have 4 degrees. I've won every fucking award that you can win on the front page of MIT as their model minority, you see? But when that went in, you have this massive attack. People calling me this curry-stained Indian who should be beaten and hanged. How dare he say invented email? Thousands of calls come in asking that I be terminated from my faculty position when I wasn't even getting paid like Elizabeth Warren was. I was still running a company. I had created the most popular course on system science at MIT. So I'm watching this shit and I'm wondering what the fuck is going on. I realized I never wanted credit for the invention of email. And then I said, and so it's a very interesting journey. And this is where you have to connect your personal journey to the collective. Up until that standpoint, Layla, if you go look at my journey as a 17-year-old kid when I came to MIT in 81, up until that point, I think I was, what is it? I must have been, that's 17 years ago. What year are we now?
Mhm.
Sorry, 11 years ago. I must have been 49. You see this massive vitriol. Gawker Media, you may know them. They were this newspaper that had that was said, there's no way, he's a fraud. He didn't invent email. I'm watching all this. And people would say, oh, you invented email. You mean like Al Gore invented the internet? No, I actually fucking did invent email, moron. And it took me a while, Layla, to come to this conclusion that from the time I was 17 till that time, I was always fighting for other people. You will see me burning the South African flag on the steps of MIT. I organized food service workers. I was the first one who led the anti-Iraq war protests at MIT. I organized massive protests against Zionism. This was in the 80s. I made sure more women got into MIT. My point is that I was an activist fighting for other people, right? But when this shit was happening, it was a very powerful journey where you have to say, wait a minute, no one's going to fight for me, or for that matter, that 14-year-old kid. I have to stand up and fight for that individual. And I talked to a number of women friends of mine who had gone through rape. And they said, Shiva, when a woman gets raped, the first thing she thinks is she did something wrong. Okay? And I went through that same journey thinking, wow, maybe I didn't invent email. Maybe someone else did. And
Wow.
fortunately, I went through all the archives and I found in the MIT Museum archives a letter written in 1977 by one of my detractors saying that they had no intention of ever creating anything like email. It was impossible. But what I'm saying is it was a very powerful journey to recognize that you had to also fight for truth for yourself. You see?
Yes.
And this is it was easier to be in some ways fighting for others. And I remember that moment. And that's when I realized, you know what? I fucking invented email. And the credit of the invention of email was no longer about me, but it was about me, but also that 14-year-old boy who busted his ass, who no one ever gave him anything. And every degree I got, every award I got, I earned on my own. It wasn't like Vivek the Snake, filing for a affirmative action scholarship when he has $2 million in the bank, and then later denouncing affirmative action. I actually fought for affirmative action for poor Blacks, right? In the inner city. So the interesting thing was that journey is what made me realize, wait a minute, I have to defend this invention, not about me. And I realized this very interesting phenomenon that during my 33 years at MIT, I was on the front page for inventing many things because I was the model minority. You see, they were using this brown face. But when I said, no, email was done before I came to MIT. This blows the shit out of the swarm, which wants to anoint its heroes. It wants to choose who will be co-opted by them. And that's where the real issue is at, because all of these people that you talked about are all fucking compromised, and all the grifter class is compromised. If, you know, a couple of days ago, I think I had one young kid here. You may have seen that video. And he was talking about, he was talking about Sneeko and this. And I said, you know, I did a video with Sneeko. And he said, I support you, Dr. Shiva. The next day he's supporting Trump. You see? No integrity. And they think it's all about building networks and your
clicks
friends.
And views.
Yeah, clicks and views. So I find myself in a very interesting position because now we've created a global movement. It's always been about independent bottoms-up movements. And the place that this has brought myself and these extraordinary people, Layla, is to this point where one person who truly stands up on their own 2 feet, is independent, and can connect their own suffering to the collective. Man, you get enough people like that, you don't need a lot of people. And that is why it scares them, because in 2020, everyone saw it out there. I was the first one to call the pandemic out. And it's all out there in March of 2020. Trump was promoting it. Booby fucking Kennedy was supporting lockdowns with Biden and Fauci. It's all out there. Booby. And so everyone that they promote is their anointed fake underdogs. They're not heroes. They create this hero mythology. The Kennedys are not fucking heroes. They're an organized crime family. That's who they are. Trump, a hero? He's a fake businessman. Fucker Carlson, a journalist? He comes from the CIA. Alex Jones, you go down the list. Joe fucking Rogan, he's owned by Ari Emanuel. And all of these people know about me. They follow me and they mimic our words because they know that someone like me and the working people that are in our movement should have been co-opted, and we're not co-opted. So this is very dangerous because the elites actually are running a highly unstable system right now. Because as people break from them, they are creating more and more of these grifters because they need people to stay with the swarm. They cannot have people actually following someone like me, one of their own. And this is where it's at. They must conceal real heroes. And the only way out of this is offline or finding, truly honest people who want to tell the truth about who the real heroes are. And that's why, when I looked at your feed, so I actually now go, we don't wait for fucker Carlson. We don't wait for Rogan. They'll never cover us because the day I go on a show, he's over. Because people say, this guy was telling the truth. You're a fucking bullshitter. And so it takes a journey to come to this point where you realize that it doesn't matter what they do. Will you stand up on your own 2 feet? And I was fortunate in many ways to have these incredible examples of my great-grandfather who was an indentured servant, a slave, and my grandmother, and connect with the depths of their soul and to take that uncompromising position. But there's 8 billion of us. When I did the swarm video, that 15-minute video everyone should watch, shattertheswarm.com. It will change your life. But people need to understand that, people you see on social media will say, oh yeah, Dr. Shiva's great, but he can't win. And I was starting to analyze that statement. Think about what they're actually saying. This is a slave fucking mentality. They know that lifespan, when I show this graph is going down. They know for 60 years they've been destroying the health of people. They know the average American has only $400 in their bank account. Obesity is going up. So over the last 50 years, the elites have been fucking you over. You are losing with them. But yet, The slave mentality, the house slave. Oh, well, he can't win. Therefore, like, just listen to this brainwashed logic. Therefore, I'm going to choose the lesser of these evils, even though they're going to continue abusing me. This would be like a woman or man in a relationship who's constantly being abused, and someone comes who gives them a real alternative, who's a righteous, good person, and they'll say, well, I got to stay with this. And this is this.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what's happened. So my running for office, my being out there at a time of an election, it is a very conscious effort to say, okay, during the election time, people awaken a little bit to get political. Now, here are your choices. Booby fucking Kennedy, who basically essentially murdered his wife, right? He did 28, banging 28 women. She finds a diary. She hangs herself, doesn't have any remorse, right? Trump, fake businessman who bullshits his way. He was selected by the Zionists, put on his trajectory. Biden, another moron, and all this coterie cabal of people. And among them, our movement and what I do stands spectacularly separate, hitting these people hard. Therefore, their only solution is they have to get this Vivek the snake. Complete fucking bullshit, or you nailed it, right? So I like talking to people now.
They called me racist. They called me racist for pointing out his inauthenticity.
He's a scumbag.
You just don't like Indian people.
No, he's a fucking racist. He's a douchebag.
Exactly.
He's not an Indian.
Crazy.
He doesn't represent the 1.2 billion Indians. He's a Brahmin fucking bullshitter. He bullshits everything he's done. The way he talks, you can see it. Anyone who's authenticity wants to slap the shit out of this guy. You're a fucking bullshitter. And the MAGA-tards, the white working class in this country, is the most abused group of people. They used Obama to abuse them for 8 years. And then they brought in Trump because they wore out a black guy that they used to print $8 trillion. So they needed this other fool. And I know these people face to face. I've met with all these people. I know their shtick. And you realize that they decided to play the Faustian game. They decided to do a deal with the devil. And they know what the fuck they're doing. Trump knows he's a fucking tool. He knows he's a tool. Booby Kennedy knows he's a tool. He tells people, oh, I'm against vaccine mandates, but in his own home, everyone had to be vaccinated. Then he blames his wife. So
that's a leader of the free world. Yeah,
exactly. So
unfortunate.
Yes. So, the hero, what is a hero? A hero is someone who's gone through that journey. And a real hero, and I have to absorb this when I refer to myself in the third part, a real hero. Now, my journey was after I'd created email, after I'd won all this stuff, worked my butt off. I didn't even want to go to college, Layla. I didn't even know about MIT. No one even told me about it. And I went to this all Jewish Zionist high school. Number one in the class there. No one told me. Why wouldn't you tell the guy who won every math award, created email about MIT? My mom randomly found out. I found out about it by a random guy who was a friend of 2 homeless women my mom had helped. It was totally fortuitous. So I didn't want to go to MIT, even though I got accepted. I saw it as a weirdo place. So that's where the hero's journey is. You see, my journey was, I didn't want to go to this place. 99% of people go to MIT. Oh, I wanted to go there all my life. I didn't want to go there. You see, I wanted to actually do carpentry and design. And I had already created email. I had already done a lot of stuff, you see? So that was the hero's journey. So when people say, what is the hero? It is this journey that you go through. And so I was forced in some ways to go to MIT. I come there and then I figure out all these systems. And then I learned how to fight at MIT. And then my whole journey has been fighting these guys. I go to India. I get appointed by the Prime Minister of India to run the largest innovation center. I could have sat there and become the Minister of Science. I expose the corruption there and I had to leave under death threats. I get a major, 6-figure book award by HarperCollins to write the book on the human body. In the middle of that, the email controversy occurs. I walk away from that. That was a target to put me onto like another one of these new age writers. You say that I'm in Hollywood. You see, so all throughout this process, it's always been these forces trying to co-opt me back into the establishment. And so that's what I mean, the hero's journey. So the process that I've gone through if you follow that journey, where I'm at in my life is a full and complete understanding of the swarm, and that the only way out of this is a bottoms up movement. It's the only way. There's
Definitely.
no other way out of this. And, you know, in our movement at Truth Freedom Health, we tell people think, oh, wow, Shiva, can't you do one thing? Can't you get a billionaire to found your movement? I said, no, there is no shortcut. There is no fucking shortcut. We're going to have to talk to people. We're going to have to let go of people who don't fully get it. We're not going to be people pleasers. We're going to connect with those people who get this shit, who understand the not so obvious establishment. And you seem to have understood that, Layla, when you were doing that analysis of Fucker Carlson and the snake, Vivek, right? That's who's going to build
Yeah.
the movement. It's not going to
It
happen.
hurt feelings. Sorry, but it hurt feelings, but it's just necessary. Like at some point we have to just say this is not right. These people aren't genuine.
Well, they're worse than genuine. They're actually working to manipulate people back into the
Yeah,
establishment. They are
exactly.
selected by the swarm because they are all creatures who have no respect for themselves. They're actually slaves. These people are serious house slaves.
Compromised. Yeah, very
Slaves.
compromised as
And so
well.
they must
Mhm.
make us slaves. You see, that is what it's about. They are absolute slaves. And so the slave mentality, so everyone listening, if you look at my credentials, what I've done, the journey, I'm probably the only one qualified to be president. And if you say, well, he can't win, what you're really saying is, I'm a slave. Because these
Exactly.
people have been abusing you. You're in an abusive relationship. So if you're saying, well, you can't win, what are you actually saying? What you're saying is, I can't win. And therefore, I must choose one of
Yes.
these abusers. The only choice you have to win is me, is our movement, is people like me. And if I wasn't doing it, someone like me who came bottoms up, who consistently fights. And so that's the choice, is that, do you want to stop being a freaking slave? Because this thinking he can't win, first of all, it's a completely anti-human, you know, brainwashed way of thinking. So that's where we're at, right? Moving people
Yeah.
out of this needle of what is winning. Is winning that you get to stay on the master's plantation and choose one master who'll whip you with different strokes of the whip? One will whip it a little bit harder and shorter. What does that mean? That means you want to be a fucking slave. And here's someone who is there to liberate you, and you're saying you can't win. It's like, shut the fuck up. Where is your mentality? So that's
It's true.
what this is about, Layla. It's the
Yeah, and
manipulation of the individual.
it is. And I've seen it so much because they ask for solutions. People ask, and I'll be in spaces, I'll talk to people, and everything they want to hear is just as long as they don't have to do the work. But unfortunately, like you said, it is a bottoms up. It is us. Like practical, actionable steps, even if it's just getting in shape. Make sure you're healthy, make sure your family's healthy. You know, do your due diligence, read, understand, like take your course, for example, on systems thinking, on system dynamic, and understand what is really happening, and more importantly, get rid of that fear. Like we have things that we can practically do as individuals, and I was talking about this the other day and people got upset. We want to talk about, you hear these talking heads like say in the Fed again, like in the Fed, get rid of the Fed. How about we take off lids of TikTok? A subversive, a subversive negative media entity, Zionist, that is totally spreading this dialectical manipulation, divide and conquer, and helping to normalize essentially the things that they quote unquote are against. Because they're constantly saying, "Oh, this is how it is. This is just how it is." So you talk to people, and they're just saying, "Oh, there's nothing we can do. This is just how it is. It's all over." And it's like, no, there's things that we can still do if we're courageous.
Yeah. So I think the fundamental thing is that when you look at the arc of all of human history, when you look at the entire arc of it, you find that it is through actual hard work, fierce hard work, commitment, discipline, that we have
Yes.
figured shit out. I mean, behind this iPhone is like billions of man hours of physics, science, engineering. When you fly an airplane, it's it's a pretty cool feeling, right? Because you get in this thing, you're flying 40,000 miles, and you realize that the people who made that happen are hardworking people, physicists, engineers, scientists, workers, etc. Not a fucking bunch of politicians or lawyers. And you
No.
start recognizing the infinite capabilities of what we can solve. And my life has been
Yes.
actually about sitting down, solving problems. How do you create email? How do you create cytosolve? How do you understand human health? And these are things that occur through discipline, sweat, tremendous amount of commitment. You know, to take care of your body, you have to set aside time. You have to go do it, right? And
Hmm.
the effort, the negative effort has been to brainwash people in a consistent way to outsource this to somebody else. And that's where you become a slave. But so if you look
Exactly.
at human liberation, the typical things, oh, you can't do that. There will always be people who are exploiting and the other people are exploited. No different than saying only birds can fly, right? It's quite interesting. Oh, we
Yes.
will think about a light bulb. Oh, how can that happen? So the human capacity for creation is infinite. It really is.
Really is.
And but what does the swarm, those in power, have taken this infinite capacity and gelled it into a few things: censorship, you know,
Mhm.
abilities to censor human beings, abilities to blow the shit out of ourselves. You think about a submarine, which is going to go to the bottom of the ocean and then fire a rocket. The incredible amount of human wasted intelligence that it went to do that. So we have no idea
Exactly.
what it means to be a human being at a very fundamental level, the infinite capacity. And that's why it's important for people to recognize that they're literally being told to eat Burger King and McDonald's all day, that they have no idea what real food is. And that's what
Exactly.
my running and our movement's about. It's about awakening people to in many ways, the divine within themselves. You know, that's what it ultimately comes about, the God consciousness that people need to awaken to. And it's about consciousness. And we had we did I do a lot of stuff on the ground. You know, it's hard to go out, pass out these flyers, but you literally go out the ground. So you get a really good sense of people. But we had an open house here in Cambridge, and a professor of economics showed up out of Tufts. And he said, you know, I can't figure you guys out because, you know, in economic theory, it's about profit, you know, value creation, right? You know, you're selling shit to people. He goes, but you guys are actually raising consciousness. I can't put this into any type of economic model. You see, so it didn't compute for him. So the entire imperial capitalist model of existence has been about denigrating people to destroy the value of human labor. Like your labor gets used for
Exactly.
doing stupid shit, not for actually creating something that can advance human life. And that is what this is ultimately about. So when people say, I can't win, what they're really saying is, I want to be a fucking slave. I want to keep sucking Zionist cock all day. That's what they're really saying. He's
Literally.
that, you know, these people all suck Zionist cock, so I'm going to suck their cock too. And they're denigrating themselves. The issue is, do you want to get off the plantation? That's the win. When you vote for me or when you support our movement, you're basically you're off the plantation. And when you're off the plantation, it's very scary because now you can't rely on Fucker Carlson to give you views. You can't rely on other doofuses to do networking. Oh, give me clicks and views. You have to connect with real reflective people, real honest,
Yes.
hardworking people. And you start creating a community of people. The wealth in that community, Layla, is, I mean, you can't put a number on it. We have people in our community who will do anything for each other, who get it, who are uncompromising, who'll tell people to shut the fuck up when they share stupid videos. Okay? They don't want to be distracted.
Exactly.
They've created a certain amount of discipline. So, you know, that's why I wanted to reach out to you because I saw you were doing that. You were calling out these people. And we just need enough people. You know, if you haven't gone through system science, go through it because it'll give you certain people have talent, but then when they get the theory and the talent, they become lightning out in a bottle, you say?
Yeah.
So they're, you
The
know,
right tools. Hmm.
the right framework. So that's what, you know,
Yeah.
so to me, creating Truth Freedom Health is a system. We've created community. We've created the knowledge of engineering system science, which, by the way, the elites learn. Kissinger learns it.
Yes,
George Soros,
exactly.
they learn it. So what I could have just sat at MIT teaching, 50, 100 people in each class, we brought out to the masses. Now, that was a serious innovation. How do you take complex concepts and make it understandable to everyone? And we've done that. And it's a learn, teach, and serve model. We want this to be about the individual's journey, them growing. And what's interesting is 60, 70% of our movement is women, working women, mothers. And men, in many ways, have been, in fact, these men, the real effeminated, or whatever you want to call it, men are the men who claim to be against the woke people. That's what I talked about yesterday, right? Ooh, these people are woke. They're into trans, like the so-called right-wing men who claim they're so strong are the actual most non-men, because they talk about being against the establishment. They talk about these other people, but at the same time, they are so into supporting the swarm, right? Ooh, Alex Jones. Ooh, fucker Carlson. Ooh, Trump. Trump is their enemy. How can you say on the one hand you're anti-Zionist, at the same time having questions, oh, maybe Trump's our only choice? And I see these guys do it. And that's the opportunity. So that shows you cannot rely on them. It's going to come from enough people going down to the root and self-reflecting on themselves. You have to look at yourself. Our movement causes cognitive dissonance. I've mentioned many times, I did a video exposing Kennedy and Joe Rogan together. And there was a guy out in, a surgeon out in LA who was going to give a ton of money to Kennedy. And this video popped out. And he said, after I saw this video, he goes, I couldn't sleep for 2 days because everything you said was true. And I had to realize that I had to get off the plantation. You see? So most people know everything I say is true. And then they have to make a decision as a man or woman. Do they want to be a principled human being? And that's the issue. Do you want to be a principled human being? What kind of human being do you want to be? After you know the truth, oh, well, I guess and this is what even Mike, what is it, Mike, Health Ranger, what's his name, Mike Adams. Oh, Dr. Shiva, I love you, right? And the next day he goes, but I guess we have to vote for Trump. Come on, Mike. Where's your testicular fortitude? So what I find many ways is that women, working class women intuitively understand some of these concepts because they have had to go through a journey in a very fundamental way. White liberal men are the biggest pussies out there. Fucker Carlson, pussy. Joe Rogan, pussy. Excuse my language, I mean pusillanimous. Okay? Okay? And you can go look at what that word is. Okay? So that's what's happened. There's these characters who are absolutely controlled, and they want to make slaves of these other so-called men. I got my gun. I'm in the Second Amendment. I'm going to support Trump. Really?
Shiva,
Yeah.
they say the right thing, though. That's what's so difficult for people because they say the thing that makes sense. Oh, America first, or oh, we want freedom, and they call out the woke agenda and the DEI and all that stuff. And so that's where good people who actually want to make real change, they get lost. They get diverted,
Right. But what's historically happened is this, Layla, and this is why our movement is so valuable. So I saw this in 1984, okay, 1981. So if you look back, the establishment has gotten very clever after 1950s and 70s. They literally manufactured these fake heroes. They literally manufactured what I call the not so obvious establishment. It was a manufacturing process. They realized that real heroes were coming up for the masses. So they said, shit, and that there would be these bottoms up movements. So what they did in an engineering fashion, because they understood the system's dynamics, they went forward and they actually said, we are going to create these avatars of fake heroes. Gandhi was one of the earliest ones. Martin Luther King.
Controlled opposition, the controlled opposition.
Yes, but
says all the right things. Yeah.
Says all the right things, but they've gotten very, very crafty. They use the world of WWE wrestling, so they create a Trump, some martyr when he's not a fucking martyr. The guy's a doofus. I mean, he's never suffered for any of his crimes ever in his life. He's never suffered, but they make him into this, right? So they started engineering. It's almost like in baseball, they started having a farm league of these people and a minor league. Tulsi Gabbard's, Vivek the Snake, Barack Obama's, Bernie Sanders on the left and the right. So they literally have manufactured these people to stave off a bottoms up movement. So they will,
Exactly.
that's what they've done. And they do it all day long. And, you know, and everyone knows, how much they have done it to all the work I've done. We did expose a backdoor portal into Twitter in 2020.
Yeah.
They suppressed it, and then they have Fucker Carlson promote it with CIA operatives later to act as, oh my God, the government controls social media. Well, this was talked about in 2020, and you concealed it. Glenn Greenwald,
Hmm.
another dweeb, as a part of this. So what's important is once people recognize that the real people will never be promoted on their platforms and they get this, then they have to do the hard work. There's no way around this. You say?
And then they get mad about that. They get angry. They say I'm harsh. And I'm sure lots of people tell you you're harsh. Your language, the way you go after them, that's too mean. Well, slavery is pretty bad, and that's a pretty terrible place to be. So maybe we need a little bit of motivation. Maybe we need that reality, don't you
Well,
think?
if you look back at life, at people who really know what they're talking about, they have very little patience for fucking stupidity. If you look back at a
Yeah,
good coach, if you look back at a good
seriously.
martial arts instructor, they do not want to be around dumb fucks. So, my journey has at a point where the movement that we are creating, it's a concentric circle model. We have amazing leaders now throughout the world. They're being trained to really support people in their journeys, but we also have very little patience for people who don't want to really learn. And so as a part of that, what we've done is people have all these little blind spots. Well, yeah, maybe Trump's bad, but Kennedy may be good, or maybe Bernie or the climate change stuff. So what we did was on the Truth, Freedom, and Health site, we did a focus group with all of our leadership about last Saturday, and we said, "How did you come to this movement?" "Oh, I saw your video on the immune health," right? That really made me realize this about pro or anti-vaccine. It's about boosting the immune system. Or I saw that video on the climate change scam, right? Or on the GMOs. So everyone came from different journeys. So we put all of those videos together and we just give it away into a framework in 2 hours. It's like you can embed yourself into that. Everyone should just go, it's free. Everyone should go take advantage of it. It'll save you 30 years of your life. Because you watch those videos, you'll understand the swarm. You'll understand why these people hate you. You'll understand the bullshit of the pro-vax, anti-vax argument. You'll understand the nonsense of the climate change scam. You'll understand what are GMOs. Like we found those 8, 9 things that we go to the depths of. And if people can
Yeah,
spend 2 hours on them, they'll come out of it on why we need to build a bottoms up movement, Layla. So
exactly. And your life, and people don't realize because they've been given the wrong information. I like to call, we have McGraw-Hill, and we know that a Mossad agent, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad purchased McGraw-Hill, the publication that puts textbooks in public schools. They purchased it. And now I call it Mossad Hill. We've had Mossad Hill all these years. We've had all this social engineering, all of this bad information, all of these wrong tools. And then you have someone like yourself. And I definitely try to attempt to, give some clarity and give some better frameworks of analysis as well. When you have the right tools, things can change dramatically in a very, very short time.
exactly. So, my great grandfather had no money, but if someone in the village wanted to get a book, he would spend whatever he could to get it. It is ultimately education, the right education. And, our
Hmm.
slogan at Truth, Freedom, Health is get educated or be enslaved. Now, the most compelling education of our time is the knowledge of how systems work, how things are interconnected. Now, there's a physics to that. And you can spend your whole life bumbling around. And the suffering that we want to stop is people don't bumble around. They don't waste their lives. They actually, once you understand principles, then you can apply these principles across the board. What the establishment
And
has done
because
is
this is, sorry, but this is the information, like the systems, this is the information that these quote unquote elites, the swarm, these people, This is the information that they have. They understand these dynamics, they understand systems. But we as individuals, we're never taught that. It's never discussed.
Yeah, and yeah, so can I share on your thing or no? I think I can, right?
No, I don't think you can share. Oh, if you put on your screen, it will
Let
definitely
me
show you.
say, yeah, so I just want to give people, this is just a little bit of understanding of this. I think I
Hmm.
could let me see if I can share. I think here we go. Let me see if I can share to your audience. Um, because I want to use this time so valuably. So when people get time, I'll give you a quick view. Can you see that on your thing? Yeah. So people should go to Truth from Hell. Let me tell you why this is important. Um, this is what's going on in the world, right? And you can see this swarm video and you can see this other video. But the thing is, and you'll see stories of people's transformation. The key thing here is this is what's going on. There's lots and lots of information now, as you know, Layla, tons of information. But in spite of all this information, you still have about 650 million people in the world who are anxious and depressed. 51% of children feel hopeless. 40% of people want to overthrow their governments. 2.5 billion people are obese. And in another 3 years, nearly 4 billion people in the world will be obese. 52% of the people, in spite of all these health videos, are completely confused on what to eat or avoid. But so it's not information makes you, better. And the reality is this simple diagram I wanted to share with people is why. You see, information put through ignorance. What is ignorance? Ignorance is when you can share with people, you don't share the entire story. You don't share with them all the interconnections. You share with them a little piece of something. So Fox News shares with them one piece, CNN shares another, and then people get diluted, or even in food. Some people say, oh, yeah, eat vegetables. And other people say, don't eat vegetables. Other people say, do a ketogenic diet. Oh, no, eat raw food. The issue is when you take a systems approach, it's about the right medicine for the right person at the right time, right? Some people, they eat spinach by way of example. They're going to get oxalates, they're going to get solanine, and they're going to get inflammation. But the point is, we have created a world of ignorance, very conscious ignorance. So then people live in illusion. They get confused. And when they get confused, they do one of two things. They go, I'm going to go complacent. I'm going to go live on my farm. I'm going to move to, some farm. I'm going to live off the grid, forget everyone. Or they get desperate. They take a gun and they go shoot people, right? Terrorism. Or, right. Well, violence, in my view, a revolution, a real revolution, is violence with a mass movement behind it. But violence without a mass movement is terrorism, right? So that's what a lot of these people do. It's not necessary violence after eons of subjugation. It's something you just do out of desperation. So, or they get, it's not, yeah, it's not resistance. It's not, but it's not about a mass movement, right? Um, or they get into the left and right. So these are the four buckets: complacency, desperation, left and right. And this is where the establishment wants people to be. And if you're in one of these places, well, I live off the grid, I take care of my garden, I'm growing my organic food, everything's great, I can't deal with the world. I don't want to be political. That's where this is. Desperate is, I'm going to go do something crazy. I'm going to be my lone hero. Or in this world of left and right. So this is really the problem. Now, the reality is, for our discussion today, is that they don't use the obvious establishment anymore. They use these characters, and we can keep adding pictures here, right? They use the Trump, the AOCs, these gurus, or Joe Rogan, or Booby fucking Kennedy, or Fucker Carlson, or Tulsi Gabbard, and you keep going on, and you have a bunch of grifters. And these people are the machinery of ignorance. And their job is to seduce people into senseless left or right, pro or anti areas. And that's what these guys do. Exactly. And to act, and now the real vicious thing that they're doing is they literally steal the words of our movement, steal slogans, and act like they're, oh my God, like like the Vivek the Snake one. Oh yeah, I'm revealing 9/11. Oh, you're talking about 9/11 after 20 fucking years later? Why didn't you talk about Zionism, idiot? Right. And if you look at Fucker Carlson supposedly becoming now this enlightened truth teller, bullshit. Everything he talks about is nonsense. If you go look at his feed, he's everything he does is always late, never when truth must be told to compel action. So he's talking about, oh, there's aliens. What's that? One second. I have to share your sound. 1 second. Before let me, the last thing I want to do, and I want you to just share that, okay, is this graph here. So what's going on is that knowledge, Layla, is very different than information. Knowledge is the ability to interconnect the dots, to find, and that's wisdom. And that interconnection capability is not intuitive. There's a science behind that. You see, the ability to understand when you look at the pro-vax, anti-vax, find out, oh, the real issue is the immune system. We need to boost the immune system. Okay. The real issue is not about, the Free Palestine movement or ceasefire now. The real issue is end the occupation of America. You see? Because every grifter now talks about Free Palestine and ceasefire now. But that doesn't get you to the end state. Ceasefire now has been a slogan that's been used for nearly 40 years. The real slogan is end the occupation of America, of Zionism, by Zionism. You see? So this ability to go through this process is what I've uncovered, and that knowledge. So now people become dynamic, innovative, and organized. But this requires you to let go of the old system. The good news is you don't have to waste 40 years of your life. We offer that knowledge of systems. We teach you, we educate you, and then we have an amazing community. And guess what? We get you off your butt to go do something about it. So we make sure you don't hide, and it's just a big grift. So that's the fundamental thing we've done, Layla, that everyone should get involved in now. You say they have no excuse not to get involved in it now. So
No, I agree.
It's the technology, the platform that's needed right now. Just like when we had to understand Bernoulli's principle to build an airplane, the knowledge of system science is what's necessary to get off the plantation. For those people who want to get off the plantation. And we must also recognize there's some people who are lazy. They want to remain on the plantation. And we don't, frankly, let them stay there. They may have to go through their own journey and their own suffering, but there are enough people who are getting it and who want to get off. So that's a good news.
And it doesn't take everyone. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shiva. I really appreciate it. There's so much to digest and so much to say. And it's really having someone like you. I remember we actually briefly talked in a space several months ago, and you talked about how it's only going to be a few people. It's not going to be the majority. And, really focus on getting those few who are willing, catalyzing them to actually take action. And so that's what keeps me motivated, because you run into so many people who call you a conspiracy theorist, who say you just hate Jews, or you're just not understanding, all the base takes of Tucker Carlson,
Yeah, exactly.
You're just black pilled.
Right. So you're asking me, what do you tell those people, Layla? Is that?
Yeah, and you told me, focus on the people who can listen, focus on the people who are willing to hear, and that's what we have to do, because it doesn't take that many people. The majority will follow.
Well, if you think about the revolutionary innovations of our time that have advanced humanity forward, those came from people who had discipline, who were hardworking, committed people. We are not the school systems are not doing that anymore. They're creating uncommitted, undisciplined people who want easy ways out. The entire magatard crowd is that. And same on the left and the right. The left and the right have created their lazy individuals who want to have a quick fix. So
it's the quick fix.
They want a quick fix, right? So what I've shared is that our movement has matured. We have enough people who know about it. The knowledge of our movement is like molasses, meaning once people get it, it's very viscous. People cannot let go of it. And once people learn this knowledge, they have a duty to share it. They have a
Mm-hmm.
duty to share with people this dynamics of the not so obvious establishment, for example, that principle that the establishment is committed to making sure you don't get off your butt, you know. And so once people understand these principles, which are part of system science, then they become very, very powerful. And you realize that there's only what, maybe 1,000 people in the world who know the mechanics of how to build a nuclear bomb. How many of those people do you need, right? Who knows the physics of splitting the atom? Very few people. And so the goal is, but those people put the training and they put the knowledge in. So if you want to really learn how to split the atom of, and to achieve human liberation here and now in our lifetime, well, you got to go to Truth Freedom Health. You got to go to school. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to get this at MIT. You're not going to get it at Harvard. You're going to get it at Truth Freedom Health. And that's the only way out of this. So now I will say that, and people say, oh, you're trying to sell us something. No, you don't have to buy anything. You don't have to buy any of it. But
Mm-hmm.
what you need to understand is that if you want to change, if you want to learn how to throw a curveball, you have to go get a good coach. If you want to learn how to lift weights the right way, you have to have a good coach. If you want to learn the right way to nutrition, you have to find the right what kind of system you are. There are processes to everything. You could waste 20 years doing that. You may bumble onto it, but you've wasted 20 years of your life. The question is, do you want to make a ton of mistakes and bumble onto it? Because between that time you bumbled onto the right solution, 20 years of human suffering took place. And that's what we want to
Exactly.
alleviate. We want to alleviate that suffering.
I totally agree. It has to start now. You can't just wait. You can't wait for the right time, wait when it's convenient, wait for it when it's easy. And I've learned that the thing that people dislike the most, unfortunately, is when you tell them practically this is what you have to do and you make it on them that they have to put the effort in. Because we
Right.
know these people are evil. Okay, that's a factor. We understand it. Okay, what about us? What do we need to change? What is the information we need to gain? What is the way of thinking we need to transform to solve this actual problem?
Yeah. So I think what's going to happen is that there are enough people now, Layla, who are recognizing, who are becoming very self reflective. And those
Yeah.
people have to go through this educational process because it's going to make them very, very uh, powerful individuals who'll know how to think, fight, and heal for themselves. They'll have the because these are the same common principles, the same principles you use to understand political systems, the same principles you use to understand why your airplane flies, or controlling an airplane's directionality are the same principles which affect your body. And those are the principles that once people understand them, they can really start understanding why you have to build a self-organizing system, a bottoms-up movement. And then it means you have to get off your ass. You have to become a good citizen, like you're putting 20, 30, let's say, 4 hours a week to maybe go work out or do something, some self-care. You have to do a certain level of time for citizenship. You have to say, you know what? I'm going to embed this into my life. And the last piece of it, people learn this is a long game. There is no
Yes.
messianic event that's going to take place that's going to change the world. It has to be work and over a period of time. And that is
Yeah.
good because now people aren't in some urgent, mind numbing anxiety all day. And that's what the
Yeah. Which
establishment
they want you
wants.
to be in, so you
Right.
can't think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
No, I know. It's so true.
anyway, is there anything else? I know we covered a lot. Um,
No, we did.
um,
I think you really spoke to all the key points that people need to hear. And I'm so excited that someone like yourself, because you get attacked by regular people when you actually point out the real things, you get called names again, you get ridiculed, you get ostracized even for actually pointing the direction to the real solution because we've been so engineered to only accept everything that would further enslave us and further lead us down this path. And they have this visceral reaction of, oh no, we can't do that, we can't do it, it's all over. Or maybe we can have some apocalypse, like you said, this messianic moment, and then somehow snap their fingers and things will change. And that's just not practically how it's going to happen. So
Yeah,
I
so
think this is just step
everything
by
they're
step.
doing is to take away, to continue to enslave people mentally. And our movement provides people a very precise way out of that. And but no one can, we're not here to convince anyone. But those people who come to that self-reflective point, which means they're willing to be self-critical of the journey that they've been on and realize that, you know what, like there's a really funny quote here I'll share with you, that someone put on here. Let me share this with you. It's right at the top of the page. Let me share this with everyone. It's and this is sort of your typical unfortunate situation someone goes through. Okay. You see this guy right here. Where is it? Right here. I'm sorry, it's up here. But you'll see right here, there's a series of sort of little quotes here. Okay. Right here. I don't know if you can see it. I'll sort of stop it here. And this person says, I jumped from supporting the Kennedys in the 1980s and 1990s to Obama in the 2000s, then to Bernie in 2010s. It's sort of this political jumping from bed to bed, you know, and then to Trump in the 2020s. I had no direction or guidance. I stayed with Trump for 4 years thinking I could, quote unquote, fix him. That plan worked out well. Operation Warp Speed, Fauci never fired, vaccines, masks, Ivanka, Jared, Hillary out free, Assange in jail, you know, 6 trillion, it's actually more than that, for the elites, and Jeff Bezos. If it wasn't for the Truth for Health movement, I'd now be working for Tulsi Gabbard, right? Another complete farce, you know? Thank you for the Truth for Health movement for their intervention. They liberated me from my own addiction to these abusers. Get educated or be abused. And that pretty much says it. It says that, do people want to live in this world of where they want to enslave themselves? And that's really the question.
It is the
Yeah.
question, and it's ready, because you're not going to be like, I put anti-hero on my profile because, yeah, it makes me an anti-hero.
Right.
It makes me the person who's rude, and because I can't keep regurgitating these same surface level talking points, the same based takes. We have to get down to the raw truth. It's not black pilled. It's just, it is
Where are you
reality.
out of, Layla?
I'm in LA.
Oh, you are? Okay. Well, you should
Yeah,
connect with
yeah,
our people. You know, we're going to help us hand out flyers, get one of these bumper
for
stickers,
sure.
because we try to find simple actions people do, because most working people that are our people, they don't have time to go like raise money and do all this, right? So this bumper sticker is a very simple way that people don't know. When you put a bumper sticker on your car, 100,000 people see it per day. So this is people power. The other thing is, on our website, Shiva for President, we have this flyer. This is old school. It's a very potent flyer. You can print it out black and white, but it tells people in very short words and terms what is actually going on, how much these people hate you. People really need to get
They
that these
do.
people hate you. They dislike you. They really hate you. And it's shown by the fact of what's happened to life expectancy, or what's happened to wages, what's happened to health. And then people need to understand who is behind this. And so we have a nice video called Shatter the Swarm. And then we invite people to come together and meet other people. All of that's, and you can find this on Shiva for President. You can download it and keep this in your car, hand it out to your friends. Again, an action that you can do in the midst of your busy life. We've tried to figure out ways that people can do stuff in a very simple way. We have these cards, you see, people can go get a card. You can download, you can print it. And these are things you can keep. So the goal is to enable people to reach people. The other thing, Layla, you will find that the swarm watches us and they mimic us. Trump suddenly starts cursing, you know? I mean, I know all of his PR
Exactly.
people, you know, I've met with them. They literally have enough data right now to watch this video, to watch what works. And they literally have ChatGPT in place for them. They said, wow, Dr. Shiva, Zionist cocksucker is working. Let me start saying that. But they will not do any work, though. They won't get on the ground. They don't want to build a movement. They're just looking for views and clicks. So they will even repeat what I say, but not for any genuine interest to build a movement, just so they can get those views and clicks.
Exactly.
And that's what this grifter class is doing right now. They literally steal your hard work. And then they don't say it at the right time. They conceal it, or they say it and they divert it back to one of their wings, the left or the right. So this is something that people have to be aware of. It's not the words that matter. It's what you actually do. Where's your work? What have you done? What have you created? So that's a question that people need to ask.
Yeah, and one more note too is that I try to tell people you listen to all these takes for years and years, the same base takes, but what's the next step? Where's the action step? These influencers never give that to you. They just keep regurgitating and keep mirroring things that you like to hear.
If you go to Fucker Carlson's website, he now has joined the movement. That's what he's put. What movement? You see, so they even hijack terms like join the movement.
Money.
Join them, and it says give me money. Their movement, and ultimately what all of this is about is they want to take out of people's memory this fundamental issue of working people building these bottoms up movements. So they call those movements communists. You say they start vilifying when people come together collectively. So that's what this is ultimately about. They do not want us raising our consciousness, having deep discussion about the swarm, about this kind of discussion, right? They want it to be a very surface level discussion about views and clicks. And that's why the effort that we've put in is now here for people, for those people who want to really fundamentally shatter the swarm. All right.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Shiva.
Yeah.
You're so inspiring. And I'll definitely be following your work and hopefully connect with your team to do something.
Yeah, we have a lot of amazing, again, women and men in California. We have to get on the ballot there. We actually get out people to collect signatures, Layla. They cheat again. They get Zionist hoodlum money. They give it to their friend. They get signature vendors. They say they're on ballots when they're not. So if you want to be a part of something really honest and be part of truly winning, then come to Shiva for President or truthfreedomhealth.com, become a warrior scholar, or live in quiet desperation all your life and be abused. That's the choice you really have. That's pretty much it. All right, Layla, thank you very much. Good connecting. We should do it again. Thank you.
For sure.
All right, be well. Bye-bye. All right, everyone. I hope that was valuable. That gave you guys an idea of why these people must conceal the real heroes, okay? Because they do not want people to see real people who came bottoms up like myself. They must be concealed. So they are literally creating fake heroes. And ultimately, you have to raise your discernment. You have to decide, do you want to get out of that? And if you do, then recognize that we've put together a very powerful movement, a body of knowledge, the knowledge of system science. And so you have the opportunity to become a truth, freedom, health warrior scholar, where you can go through that journey and advance yourself and become a leader. So I'll end with this video, but get involved, get involved, get involved. We have allowed our country to be taken over from within, and the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to, and we need to all unite, working people. There's only one movement that can do that, and that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution. And that's why I put this together. My goal is to train an army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is, the dynamics of all systems that affect nature. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth.
which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Truth, freedom, health. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up. Working people, people who work uniting. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers. Completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, you don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is the not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is the not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing, Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. We're building a bottoms-up movement. And that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done. And it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. You know, Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote-unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum where people can go to truthfreedomhealth.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people. 2 years of MIT control systems, I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it, anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. And the Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on truthfreedomhealth.com, so people can sign in, they can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there, but we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to truthfreedomhealth.com.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, to those of you joining a little bit late, we had a conversation about a very important concept, and you can go to the depths of it and hear it about, I'm the real hero, and you'll understand what that means. Nothing self-aggrandizing, but you should really study this video and why the swarm must conceal that. The swarm, in summary, does not want heroes from below. They actually are creating now fake heroes because they know the power of the story of the underdog, people coming from below. It's embedded into our psyche that we really want real heroes. So they actually are creating fake heroes to manipulate people back into the swarm. That's really the takeaway. And that is why, as I shared, it is not in their interest to share the true story of my journey, right? This is why the shadow banning takes place, because the arc of my journey, the arc of the movement that we've created, so all of you can exercise your, heroism, they have to conceal. So get involved in the movement for truth, freedom, health. Go become a warrior scholar. This is one way we can support everything that we're doing. And most importantly, as many of you know, go get one of these bumper stickers. Put it on the back. You can also get one that says shatter the swarm, okay? If you're overseas, but get involved. 100,000 people see those bumper stickers per day. This is how we rise up on our own. And stop saying, unless you want to remain a slave, oh, Dr. Shiva can't win. What does that mean? It's an irrelevant statement to make. We will never win on their plantation, quote unquote win. We will never win in their fake elections. But when you decide to support our campaign, when you decide to become a member of the Truth, Freedom, Health movement, you're getting off their plantation and you're redefining what winning is, because you're surely not going to win with them because their plantation has destroyed life expectancy. If you have a child today, your child is going to live a shorter lifespan than you. You're never going to win with them. So if you want to keep talking about winning on their grounds, you're going to be an absolute loser and you're going to get more and more abuse. Real winning is you getting off their plantation mentally and realizing we need to build a fucking movement. And that's why during an election period, when people choose to vote for us, write us in, right? You are making that decision. You're taking a stand. And that's what this is about. So take a stand, be a real human being, don't be a slave. So that's the opportunity for each one of you. And what you want to do is up to you. But be well. Thank you.